his 3 days official visit to the United States of America to attend U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit organized by the White House, President of the Republic, His Excellency General Salva Kiir and the accompanied delegation of 3 ministers and 3 deputy ministers, upon the arrival in Washington, D.C., were warmly welcomed by the South Sudanese community in USA, who raised supportive slogans to the legitimate leadership of the country, saying, "One people, one nation, no to war, yes for peace. Long live Kiir Mayardit." President Kiir and his counterparts of Africa were welcomed at the White House in Washington, D.C. by President Barack Obama and the First Lady Michelle Obama for a state dinner on the occasion of the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit. Of the summit, President Kiir addressed South Sudanese community in Washington, D.C. and reassured his commitment to form a transitional government of national unity and said removal of legitimate president and dissolution of an elected assembly of South Sudan are red lines. President Kiir urged South Sudanese community in USA to work for peace and discard all tribal conflicts being flamed by the rebel leader Riek Machar and his friends to divert people's opinion from the failed coup attempt he spearheaded in December last year.
It's a great pleasure to be with you this evening. Today, I don't have any word to tell you. It's a day of our president, Salva Kiir to tell you the message that you will also take to other brothers and sisters who didn't make it all the way here to this very important occasion. I believe his messages will be very clear to you. You will take it, and I believe that promise of the peace in our country, which we are working for, will achieve it.
National Parliament was elected by the people. And if today you resolve it, and then you appoint an appointed parliament, it will not be qualified to approve the agreement which you will sign here. So it is better that that National Assembly remains in place so that this agreement, if we reach it, it will be tabled to them so that they endorse it, and then it will go to the Constitution. There I said, resolution of the National Parliament is a red line. Anybody that crosses it, and I'm going to know the president, because people were saying, Muno Haikun president. So I told them that you don't look for the president. The president is there. I was elected by the people. I was elected by the people 93%. And as long as my people did not tell me to step aside, none of you will come to me. And that is another red line. We are building, or we are laying a foundation stone for a democracy in South Sudan. Laying a foundation stone is not easy. For this democracy that we are talking about, everybody singing like a song.
Grandson of Wundeng, Mr. Guy Lel Wundeng, and women representative in Washington, D.C., Ms. Natalina Nyanut Bonamalwal, assured a strong support of South Sudanese community in USA to the legitimate leadership of the country. And they call on South Sudanese to be proud of being independent and forget tribal differences.
I want to say, have you seen this flag? You talk about it, about the future, country, will come. And then people call him crazy. Is he crazy? No. Okay. William, he talked about Səlfakir. He called him, the name of your president in William's song is called Kiir. Is he crazy? So, William, he plays Kiir. I have seen him before he won. Okay? He's a good leader. He's a good president. Okay? He played a lot of effort to get South Sudan outside. Okay? I've been supporting him since 2010 when I was with Bashir in Khartoum. Even Bashir, he tried to use me with Wundeng to destroy the government of Səlfakir. I refused. So, like now, I have seen Mashari went there, he has a flag. Which flag? This is the flag of South Sudan. So, I repeat it again, where are with you, Mr. President, all where are with you. His name is he will play New Year with the agenda of tribalism. This is no agenda. He has no government. Okay? Where are with you? So, but you support us. All the people who are confused, we're going to come after you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your input again. You are coming from long journey to see your people. So I'm so happy to see you today. Thank you.
We are behind you for peace, and we are behind the logo of One People, One Nation. This is something that everybody should actually claim. If we want to have a country, please, let's all together forget our differences. And let's look upon ourselves that we are brothers and sisters. And we fought 50 years to get our country, to have a nation. The day we got our independence, I was very proud for the first time, my close to 20 years, to call a country, my country, South Sudan. How long, it took you to say, I have a country?
President Kiir also met with U.S. Secretary of State, Mr. John Kerry, and briefed him on the current improving security and political situations in the country. His Excellency Kiir told U.S. Secretary of State that if the rebel leader Machar was to respect and abide by his repeatedly commitments to peace and has ability of controlling his forces on the ground, peace would have been achieved long time ago. President Kiir further said the South Sudanese people being killed in the battles between the government and the rebels are the people who voted for him, and he will not leave the country to continue in such a lamented situation. On his part, U.S. Secretary of State appreciated government efforts, further saying U.S. supports an elected president and U.S. sees rebels leader Riek Machar as responsible for breaking cessation of hostilities. But John Kerry stressed Machar needs to understand the international community is going to be impatient with those breaches. President Kiir and the accompanying delegation attended U.S. Africa Leaders Summit held in Washington, D.C. under the theme, Investing in the Next Generation. U.S. Africa Leaders Summit was the first of its kind, brought heads of state and government from across the continent who have good standing with USA to discuss issues of trade and investment in Africa, highlight U.S. commitment to Africa's security and its democratic development. The summit concluded its sessions with a number of commitments made by Obama's administration to expand its trade relations with Africa and pledged $33 billion for African development, women empowerment across the continent, and improvement of health services.
This summit reflects the reality that even as Africa continues to face great challenges, we're also seeing the emergence of a new, more prosperous Africa. First, we made important progress in expanding our trade. The $33 billion in new trade and investments that I announced yesterday will help spur African development and support tens of thousands of American jobs. With major new commitments to our Power Africa initiative, we've tripled our goal and now aim to bring electricity to 60 million African homes and businesses. The leaders here pledged to step up efforts to pursue reforms that attract investment, reduce barriers that stifle trade, especially between African countries, and to promote regional integration. I think there's an increasing recognition that if countries are going to reach their full economic potential, then they have to invest in women, their education, their skills, and protect them from gender-based violence. And this week, the United States announced a range of initiatives to help empower women across Africa. In our fight against HIV/AIDS, we'll work with 10 African countries to help them double the number of their children on life-saving antiretroviral drugs. And even as the United States is deploying some of our medical first responders to West Africa to help control the Ebola outbreak.
The summit addressed good governance as a foundation of economic growth in a free society, deepening security cooperation with America to meet common threats from terrorism to human trafficking.
Today, interaction the leading alliance of American NGOs, is announcing that over the next 3 years, its members will invest $4 billion to promote maternal health, children's health, and the delivery of vaccines and drugs. That means this summit has helped to mobilize some $37 billion for Africa's progress, on top of, obviously, the substantial efforts that have been made in the past. Second, we address good governance, which is a foundation of economic growth in free societies. Third, we're deepening our security cooperation to meet common threats from terrorism to human trafficking. We're launching a new security governance initiative to help our African countries continue to build strong professional security forces to provide for their own security. And we're starting with Kenya, Niger, Mali, Nigeria, Ghana, and Tunisia. In closing, I just want to say that this has been an extraordinary event, an extraordinary summit. Given the success that we've had this week, we agreed that summits like this can be a critical part of our work together going forward, a forcing mechanism for decisions and action. So we agreed that the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit will be a recurring event to hold ourselves accountable for our commitments and to sustain our momentum.
Ladies and gentlemen of the press, I welcome you and I thank you very much for coming. I call you here to give you a quick overview and perhaps a better understanding of the situation that is unfolding in my country, South Sudan. I do realize that a lot of what is being written in the international media about South Sudan is based on inaccurate or incomplete information. But first of all, let me take the opportunity to thank His Excellency President Barack Obama and the government of the United States of America for inviting all of us to this historic meeting that brings together a good majority of our African leaders, including those from the business community. My country hopes that with the United States of American government in support, we will not only be able to resolve some of our current political problems, but also will have American investors coming to South Sudan with a commitment to dealing with these unfortunate consequences. I want to assure you and all the people throughout the world that my government is fully committed to a speedy process of national reconciliation, full recovery, and long-term prosperity for the sake of all South Sudanese people. This is what I promised Secretary John Kerry when I met him the day before yesterday, and that is the roadmap we intend to follow. Accordingly, may I therefore reaffirm that I'm fully committed to the peaceful resolution of this conflict within the framework that is already in place under the Regional Intergovernmental Authority on Development, that is IGAD, and the African Union. I believe that the IGAD process will iron out the critical issues, including matters pertaining to the formation of a broad-based government of national unity that is fully responsive to our complex diversity. Second, I reiterate that I bear no permanent grudges with the rebels who tried to take over power through unconstitutional means, and I say this because I honestly believe that South Sudanese deserve having all the sons and daughters contributing to the task of the nation building. We must never again be dragged back into the endless war. Many of you may wish to know that I personally spent not less than 30 years of my own life fighting for the freedom and the independence of my country, South Sudan. And I can assure you that I know better than most of the people that real battles are not won under combat, but dialogue and national reconciliation is therefore uppermost on our agenda. Thirdly, the third issue which concerns the people today is the famine and humanitarian crisis. That has been widely talked about in the international media. I would like to emphasize that the people of South Sudan will welcome the international community and all the people of goodwill to join hands with us in the government in dealing with this famine and any crisis that we are facing in South Sudan if it escalates to that level which is being reported today. We know that it has not yet reached that level, but the dimension that has been given is not correct. More importantly, my appeal is to United Nations mission in South Sudan and all other humanitarian agencies that are working in South Sudan to work with us in ascertaining the facts and coordinating a swift response. Not just somebody gets an information and then you go to the press with it before you confirm it with the people who are on the ground. We need to have a more accurate sense of numbers of those affected and their exact location so that the government can effectively plan and also be assisted in resolving the crisis on a long-term and sustainable basis. On the political issues, I have already stated that we will fully support the IGAD process. We are also already working with the civil society and traditional leaders on a national dialogue and reconciliation effort that needs to be reinforced by all sides. In conclusion, there is an unfortunate perception that South Sudan is caught up in an intra-ethnic or inter-tribal war. Let me state here that South Sudan is not engaged in any intra-ethnic or any tribal war. And my government, the army, and civil society in all its expressions are all reflective of the multi-ethnic composition of our society. I invite you, ladies and gentlemen of the press, to come to South Sudan and to cross-check all the information closely before you too contribute to these claims that only funds the division and strife in South Sudan. We in the government of South Sudan have never been indifferent with the international NGOs or all the humanitarian organizations that are working in South Sudan. Whatever that might have been reported are the results, what actually brought us to the situation that we are in today. You know, when we ascertain or when we gain our independence, we were fully united behind the objective of building our nation. Unfortunately, when we were moving very well, some greedy people saw that it was their time now to take over, and so that whatever good things that are coming, or whatever good things are being said, should come in their name. And unfortunately, some international NGO staff joined those groups, and they became their messengers, really spreading the news of those who would be the right people to manage the Republic of South Sudan. This is where they drifted away. And those people, the South Sudanese I mean, when they saw that the Europeans or the Americans were standing with them, they knew that it will be very easy for them to take over the government, and that they will be the best friends of America, or the best friends of the United Nations, or the best friends of the international community in general. This is how South Sudan fell into this crisis, and we did not target them in any way. We just said, well, anybody who is involved will then get the same punishment like any South Sudanese. But we did not punish them. We criticized them, and that criticism was taken to be a war that we were launching war against the people and the government of America or the United Nations. We had the problem of the explanation. And for you people, you have no time to go and see. Now, we are told that, South Sudan is a no-go area. And American citizens have been warned not to travel to South Sudan because there is no security there. And this is why I'm now inviting all of you, come to South Sudan and see by yourselves whether there is really insecurity as it is being preached here or not. So my government is working day and night to see into it that the situation comes down, to see into it that the humanitarian work goes on in the areas where humanitarian assistance are needed without any hindrance. The order is there on the ground, and anybody, those who misuse their authorities, are always being punished for that, especially the people in uniform, that is army, police, and all that, the security people. Then the problem again has been reported that relief assistance are not allowed. The government forces are blocking the humanitarian work to reach the affected people. And that is the reason for claiming famine that can kill more than 50,000 children. Or is it what? Sometimes they say 7 million people are at risk of starvation, and which is not true. How did people reach into the conclusion of those numbers? Officially, South Sudan is 8.2 million. If 7 million are at the verge of death, then what is left of South Sudan? It is not true, madam. Thank you. And so when you talk about equal partnership, it means that both of you will bring something together on equal basis. And for now, we will not be in a position to do that to make the America, but it is the America that will start to bring us up until when we come to the level of equal partnership. That will be a future dream, not immediately something to happen now. We all know that, if we follow this roadmap laid by President Obama, yes, we are going to be equally participating together with the American business people or the governments.
Michelle.
I'm Michelle Kellerman with National Public Radio. In the public meetings, Secretary of State John Kerry, for instance, sided with you, complaining that it's the rebels that are violating ceasefires. But I wonder if in private there was any more tension with your meetings with U.S. officials on that particular issue, on the political talks going on in Addis. And then also you said you have no personal grudges against the people that started this. Does that extend to Riek Machar?
Yes. I can repeat that I have no any grudges against anybody. And I'm a very forgiving person. And these people of South Sudan, they know. The worst people who are now killing people are people who have committed crimes many times, but I forgive them. The difference is that we had with the officials of the United States of America is that when we see something extraordinary happening, we don't keep quiet. And if we saw the American people who came to South Sudan on official missions, we see them leaving their responsibilities, and they come into our affairs. This is what we don't accept. And even if I stay here today as a refugee or employed somewhere, I go and leave what has been given to me to do, and then come and enter into Kerry's office and then try to do things behind him. He will not be happy with me, of course. These are the people who run into problems with me. And I told them that you are doing something you did not come for. And in Addis Ababa, starting from South Sudan, when the rebels commit atrocities, it is not reported that it is the rebels who are doing this. It is turned against the government, and that it is the government forces that are doing this. And they refuse to verify it. So we always say, no, this is not the correct way of doing things. It is recently that they accepted that it is the rebels that are actually breaking the ceasefire. And all this time when we complain about having been attacked by the rebels, what we hear from the national media is that both parties are to blame. And why should we be blamed for what we have not done? We cannot attack ourselves. We cannot go and attack one of our outposts. It is the rebels that can attack us. If we want to attack, we will go to attack the rebels themselves, but not our own forces. This is where we differ. And in the talks in Addis Ababa, the American people, the staff, those particular people, not everybody, very few, they intend to support the position of the rebel groups. Is it a mistake on our side to tell them that, no, don't do that. Let us do what we are actually supposed to do with the rebels, not you. So there is nowhere that, we have gone against the American citizens or the officials. What we don't want from them is that, they should not take sides. Well, I don't know when the suffering will stop, but I thought that, if we, the warring parties, were to agree to stop fighting, automatically it will end the suffering of the people, because the humanitarian assistance will flow to the people who are in need. This is where the suffering of the people will stop. As for the deadline for the formation of an interim government, it is not the government that has the responsibility of the delay. I personally traveled to Addis Ababa in May, and we signed the ceasefire with Riek Machar on the 9th of May. That day, we committed ourselves to respect this ceasefire, and so that we allow our people to be rescued by humanitarian organizations. Unfortunately, within 2 days, the ceasefire was violated by the forces of Riek Machar. Nobody condemned him. We went throughout the month of May fighting, and then we were called back again in June. I traveled to Addis Ababa. Of course, Riek did not leave Addis again when we went for the meeting in May. He never left Addis again. He remained in Addis Ababa, and I came back in June on the 10th to meet him again. We signed another ceasefire, and we recommitted ourselves that we will respect the ceasefire. I said in front of the IGAD mediators and all those who were present that Riek Machar has a problem. He has no command, he has no authority over his forces. He claims that he has a force, but he is not in command of those forces. There are generals in their own areas who operate according to their wish. And so whatever Riek Machar says in Addis Ababa does not appeal to anybody among those generals. So this is what happened, and this is why there is no cessation of hostility between the two forces. Again, it was in June that we said 60 days to finish all the negotiations, and so that we come for the interim government that will be formed up. It was not our suggestion, I personally, because to suggest that let us dissolve the constitutionally elected government and we go for another interim arrangements that are not constitutional. We are going to conduct general elections in May 2015. It was a decision from here that there must be, this government must go. That was the music that people were dancing to, regime change. So I was telling the Americans that it is very strange for me to see Americans supporting a military coup when you are a democratic country and you want everybody to establish democracy in their countries. To come around and then to support rebels that want to overthrow a constitutionally elected government with an elected president, and you said before that in order I will be in the government with Riek Machar. Don't compare me with him. He's a rebel. I was elected 93% by the people of South Sudan voted for me. And the person who was contesting with me got 7% of the votes. I don't have any competition with Riek Machar in this. So it is up to him. After all, he was not in the government. And this is why he created all these problems, because he wants to come back to the government. And so it will be up to him to accept any offer that I give him to come and participate in the government, or he stays out and then prepare himself for the coming elections. If I was to be him, that would be the best of my choice. That I should not enter into any government position, but I will prepare myself to fight the elections when the time comes. So it was Riek Machar who delayed the talks, especially the second agreement we made in Addis Ababa in June. They boycotted the talks all together until the mediators have to announce adjournment of the talks, indefinite adjournment, and go for consultation. So the month of June, the month of July ended without any progress. It is now that people have gone back to Addis Ababa, but I believe talks are not going well. And I was even told that, delegation of Riek Machar has either worked out or has not even come. The NGOs that come to work in South Sudan should also verify any information they get out. They verify it through the government channels. They come and ask, we have the Department of Humanitarian. The ministry is there. And so they should ask the minister in charge of humanitarian affairs whether this thing is there or it is not there. This is what I meant. Because if we cooperate in sharing information, we will not contradict ourselves. And so, doing all these things parallel is what can bring the misunderstanding. But if we move together, we will always be successful in what we are doing. I don't mean that the government will suppress the information that comes from any independent body. We cannot suppress that information. We'll allow it to go, provided that the reporter is reporting the truth. The conflict really has changed the situation of the administration of the government, because in terms of humanitarian work, there were things to be done by the international community. The government always supervises what is being done. If there is any deficiency somewhere, the government will come in to close the gap. And the NGOs also monitor what the government is doing. If they see that what the government is doing is not enough, they will come in to support the government to close the gap. Now, with this conflict, people have pulled back whatever they were supposed to do, especially the NGOs. And there is a diversion even in the development. There were development funds that was being brought by some governments. They have now pulled them out from development, and they are talking about shifting the resources for humanitarian work. That thing has not yet materialized. So the money is neither being used by the government in development nor being given to people in aid so that they benefit from it. This is what I meant, this thing has happened. And so it is now left to the responsibility of the government to do whatever the government could to prevent any disaster if the NGOs do not deliver according to their missions. The government cannot wait because the people belong to the government. The government will have to take responsibility and use whatever resources that we have to rescue the people. And anytime when I go back from here, and there is a need for IGAD to meet us up now, hearing that there will be a summit soon in Addis Ababa, I will not hesitate. I have never turned away from the mediators. So we are committed to peace process under the IGAD. We don't want anybody to hijack it from them. There are very powerful people that will come and think that IGAD is not doing enough, and then they take it. That will not bring peace. If they have any good ideas, they should support IGAD with it. They advise the IGAD that do it this way, instead of taking it over altogether. We are also committed as a government to the humanitarian work. As your question was, we will cooperate with all the NGOs, with everybody that wants to help our people. And also we now the issue of the interim government, as I said, it is something that was forced on us because of the people who took side in support of Riek Machar. They thought there was no way to rescue Riek from his crime of committing this deadly crime against the people. And if you go to South Sudan today and you go and visit the areas where Riek Machar launched his attacks, you will cry. If you go to Bor, the capital of Jonglei State, you will not believe it. If you go to Malakal, the capital of Upper Nile State, you will not believe it also. The same thing to his home area, Bentiu, the capital of Unity State. What Riek did, I always say that even those Arabs who were oppressing us did not do it. Because the government of Sudan then never gone to church to kill the people in the church, inside the church. But Riek did it. His forces just stormed the church. They get the women, those who work in the church, old or young. They were gang raped, stripped naked and they're raped, and after raping them, they killed them inside the church and left them there. It was done in Malakal, It was done in Bantu. They did it in a way that they want to finish the Dinka tribe. A Dinka pregnant woman was killed, and they turned her stomach to see the child in the womb. And when that was proved to be a boy, then the boy who was already dead was again slaughtered. That he was, if he was to be born, then he would become another problem in future. So who can do these things if you are a leader? You want to rule, and you are killing people in mass. Whom are you coming to rule? If suppose Riek Machar becomes the president of South Sudan today, how will he rebuild these towns which he has destroyed? All the banks have to be destroyed, broken into, and then they are looted properly. And so, what kind of a leader is he? All right, people talk about, ethnic fighting. It has not happened. My first statement after the coup to the nation was that I appeal to the people that anybody who thinks that is my supporter, don't attempt to kill any more person, because it is not the Nuer as a tribe that rebelled. It is Riek Machar who rebelled. I don't want anybody to take side. Dinkas should not fight against the Nuer. And if the Nuer accept the call of Riek Machar to fight the Dinkas, it will be their own crime. Like now, it is the crime really that they have committed, and if there is to be investigation into human rights abuses, I don't know what Riek will say. And when he was killing his own people in his own home state, Bantu, people have to flee. They run to where I come from, my state. If there was a tribal conflict, why would the Nuer people run to Dinka state? And none of them was touched. People received them, and they are now there in their tens of thousands. They are there. So anybody who tells you that there is a tribal conflict in South Sudan, please don't accept it. I will not even tolerate such a thing to happen. During the days of the conflict, yes, there must be criminals who took the law into their own hands and might have killed people, because it happened that people were looting actually. So a thief does not know the boundaries, does not know any relationship with who. These are the people who might have committed any crime, and I don't think that it was a organized issue of killing people. I have talked much, but I must thank you for coming, and I'll be happy to see you in South Sudan.
They will be upstanding for His Excellency. President Kiir concluded his visit by a meeting with his counterpart of Burundi, His Excellency Pierre Nkurunziza, and discussed ways of strengthening bilateral ties between the two countries. As stated by the South Sudan Charge d'Affaires in Washington, D.C., Ambassador Bak Valentino Wall, the meeting between President Kiir and His Excellency Nkurunziza mainly focused on possibilities of opening embassies in the two countries.
His Excellency President Salva Kiir has just concluded a very successful visit to Washington to attend the U.S.-Africa Summit. It has been a wonderful achievement. It started by a brilliant welcoming from the South Sudanese community members who traveled from across the United States to come and welcome him. This afternoon, he had a meeting with the President of Burundi, and they discussed about the bilateral relations and the possibility of establishing embassy of Burundi in Juba and South Sudan embassy in Bujumbura. This concludes the visit, and we are very happy in the embassy and honored to have been a part of the President's visit. Thank you very much.